Welcome in. Live day 3 coverage from SEC Media Days. So glad you are joining us here live from Radio Row as our live coverage brought to you by Twin City Used Cars in Gadsden and Fort Payne. Chase Robinson here with you as we get ready for another exciting afternoon of SEC Media Day coverage, and we've got a lot to cover today. We had 4 teams at the podium: Georgia, Arkansas, Florida, and Kentucky. All were on the podium, so we'll break down what we heard from those coaches and some of the players. We've got a busy day of guests on the way over the next 2 hours as we are on the air. And we're excited here in just a few minutes to talk with Roger McCreary. He's going to join us, former Auburn Tiger, now with the Tennessee Titans. And he is actually here this week representing Bush's Beans. If you like baked beans, I do. Bush's, great brand. Bush's has announced a sponsorship deal with the SEC and the SEC Network to be the official beans of the SEC. Yes, it's for real. Official beans of the SEC, Bush's Beans. And so Roger McCreary is here speaking for Bush's Beans, so he's going to come by and talk. He's a big fan of beans, so we'll talk with Roger coming up at 2:15 Central, 3:15 over here in Atlanta, about Bush's baked beans, and we'll get into his career at Auburn and then him being drafted to the Tennessee Titans. We'll discuss that with Roger McCreary coming up here in just a few minutes. Also coming up at 4 o'clock, or excuse me, 3 o'clock. The Eastern and Central times has been getting me. Everything over here I've got on Eastern time. But coming up at 3 o'clock over there in Northeast Alabama, we will be talking with Gary Stokan. He is the CEO and president of the Peach Bowl. So he's going to stop by and talk with us around 3 o'clock this afternoon. So those are a couple of great guests. Plus, we're going to hear from the quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs back in 1980 when they won the national championship, Buck Bellew. We'll talk with him, what he kind of his predictions of what Georgia could be like this year. We'll talk with Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart. He will join us and talk some SEC football with us here this afternoon. Also, Josh Pate with CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports, and looking forward to hear what Josh Pate has to say about SEC football this year. But very excited to be here. Great guest lineup over the next couple of hours as we move through this Wednesday afternoon. Hard to believe we're on day 3. It's going by pretty quick. Tomorrow will be 4th and final day as Auburn will be up. So we'll have a lot of Auburn content coming your way tomorrow with Coach Brian Harsin. He'll take the podium first thing tomorrow morning. We'll have some Auburn guests on as well to get us ready for Auburn football coming up tomorrow. But Georgia, defending national champs, we're here. We're in Atlanta. So there's a good bit of Georgia fans downstairs in the lobby here at the College Football Hall of Fame, wanting to get a glimpse, wanting to get an autograph with their head coach of Kirby Smart. And, you know, I didn't get to hear all of what Kirby had to say, but I was interested in what he had to say. And, you know, they lost a lot of guys. I mean, you look at the roster from last year to this year, and it's especially on the defensive side of the ball, it looks a lot different, but there's still a lot of talent back there, and a new defensive coordinator as well. Dan Lanning, of course, now the head coach at Oregon, who was on that the defensive coordinator for that national championship team last year. So a lot of differences on the Georgia defense. Offensively, though, they're going to be very good. Stetson Bennett back in at quarterback. I think he will just get better from what we saw last year. You know, another team I was interested in hearing about, and haven't gotten to listen to all of Billy Napier yet either from Florida. But, some people are excited about what's to come at Florida. as they are at Arkansas. And Sam Pittman is, man, he's – and you'll hear this when we talked with Josh Pate earlier. He had a one-on-one interview with Sam Pittman this morning, and he said, he's the most likable coach in the league, and I believe that. He is a super, super guy. Very – it's hard to say any college football coach is laid back, but I think he's somewhat of a laid back guy and really likable. And Arkansas fans are really excited about what's to come for their football team, and rightfully so. And so, if we have time, we'll get to some Sam Pittman audio from earlier. But Arkansas fans are pumped up and excited for what's to come with the Razorbacks this year. They've got a very tough schedule, though. We'll break down all these teams, look at their schedule, kind of some possible wins and losses for these teams coming up. And another one, Kentucky. A lot of people are high on Kentucky this year. Of course, Will Levis, quarterback, and very talented quarterback, and interested to see what Kentucky can do this year. A lot of people think maybe they can be that third best team in the SEC, and I think that is possible, that they could be that number 3 team. And so we'll break down Kentucky, what their schedule looks like this year as well. Florida's got a pretty brutal schedule, opening up with Utah, and it doesn't take long before they get into SEC play. And that's what really stuck out to me in looking at a lot of these teams' schedules. Now, you're in the SEC, you're in the best league, so whenever you get into league play, it's going to be pretty tough. But a lot of these teams have some really tough games to kind of open up their season. And so we'll give a schedule breakdown to all these teams as we move through the show this afternoon. But kind of a bit of breaking news, if you would, came out earlier. Texas A&M is scheduled to be here tomorrow. Aggie receiver Aniyah Smith was arrested last night on a DWI charge as well as a weapons charge. He was supposed to represent Texas A&M here at Media Days tomorrow, and so not sure if they have named a replacement for him yet, but not good when one of your star players, one of your captains, a guy who's representing you at Media Days, is arrested 2 nights before you come to Atlanta. So that was some folks talking about that today here at SEC Media Days. Excited to be here again. We are at the College Football Hall of Fame, and I've said this on every show this week from Atlanta. This is a place you want to come. Of course, it's closed since we're here for Media Days this week, but great setup here at the College Football Hall of Fame. If you love college football, come check out the Hall of Fame here in Atlanta. And great setup, and looking forward to coming back over here sometime and seeing it in person. Let's grab a break here. We will come back with more SEC Media Day coverage next here from Radio Row on Fox Sports 102.9. Yes.
Hey, Christian. Chase Good to meet you, Chase. Nice to meet you. Got Roger here.
Hey, Chase. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
They just want to do a break, so I'll probably need a couple minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Yeah. How's the week going so far?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Big day tomorrow, I know.
We are back live here from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame for SEC Media Day coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars in Gadsden and Fort Payne. Chase Robinson here with you, and we're excited to welcome in a special guest here on Radio Row, former Auburn Tiger, Roger McCreary, now with the Tennessee Titans and representing Bush's Beans today. Roger, appreciate you coming on with us this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, and we'll get to football in just a second, but you're here for Bush's Beans, and which is kind of a new deal with the SEC, with the SEC Network as the official Beans of the SEC, and I think it fits good with you, as we all heard about over the years, your kind of pregame ritual. And so tell us a little about that and how you got connected with Bush's.
Oh, yeah. First, I'm just excited to announce their new partnership as the Beans of the SEC. I'm just happy just about this new deal I have with them. It was just great. Just me growing up as a kid, I used to love eating beans a lot. So like from since I was a little kid on, number beans, that's all I ate. So people always be on me like, why you love beans so much? It was just good. So the proteins and all that stuff, you put the sugar in and all that. So when I got to college, a lot of people was second guess like, dude, you put sugar in your beans and stuff. And one of my teammates recorded me, and it went viral. So that's when a lot of people started noticing that I eat a full plate of baked beans. I eat like 2 full plates of it. And that what caused that glimpse of me putting sugar in it, because that was always different. And like just that moment, I feel like when a lot of people noticed that I love really eating beans.
Yeah, and so it got you a good deal here with Bush's to be a part of that, and which is really cool. And you playing at Auburn, being in the SEC now to represent these guys who are now teaming up with the SEC has got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. I'm happy that it finally happened, especially like when I finally like got notice of the beans. So I'm just happy just to be here just to represent them. Like this really is a dream come true. I know it's beans, but it's really a dream come true because I really love eating beans. Like that was really a game ritual for me. So I'm really happy that I get to talk to them. I really had that new connection with them because I feel like it's just great. This is like a step closer like to being like, all right, I should deal with it. I'm happy for it.
Absolutely. We're talking with Roger McCreary. He is here on Radio Row representing Bush's Beans. Of course, played for the Auburn Tigers, was drafted, and now with the Tennessee Titans. So how's that kind of going right now after being drafted, now getting ready to be in the Titans organization?
It was really exciting just being drafted, just like have that privilege or like just ever be drafted, because not a lot of people can get drafted. So I'm really happy and grateful for that. And when it happened, I was like excited, like just to live that new life now of actually living the dream of my childhood dream. And at Tennessee Titans, it's not far from home or nothing. Yep. And I really love the city of Nashville and everything. I love everything about it, Music City and all that stuff, because I really love listening to music too. So it's just great, like finally going into the next level in the NFL. And I was just ready for the season to see how it goes.
Absolutely. And, of course, you play football at Auburn. We have a lot of Auburn fans in our listening area as well who I know remember you. And so talk about just kind of your time playing at Auburn, what that meant to you, and how that went for you just being an Auburn Tiger.
It was really great. Coming out of high school, it wasn't like I wasn't a highly recruited guy. So Auburn, they took a chance on me. So I was really excited that I finally I really went to Auburn, the big SEC school and all that stuff. A dream come true. I was really a Bama fan at first, so it was crazy that I went to Auburn. But I'm no regrets of deciding to go to Auburn. I love everything about it. All my 4 years there, they taught me a lot of new things, amazing things, and they made me better as a player. So I'm really happy that I get to go there, because I feel like if I would have went somewhere else, it probably would have went this way. So I'm really happy and grateful for that opportunity to play at Auburn, especially in Jordan-Hare too.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some things right now you're kind of working on your game, getting ready for the next level? Because I know there is a difference between college and professional. So what are some things you're trying to improve on right now?
I'm really I don't really have no goals set. I'm just trying to really improve at everything. It's really back at square one. I'm just trying to come in with a clear mindset of just coming in, trying to learn everything new. I know I'm gonna make mistakes and everything. That's the game about. So I'm just really trying to adjust to it and just live life and enjoy that time of playing in the league. So really, I'm coming to fresh mindset to just enjoy it. I'm really excited for it.
And I know I had a chance to watch you down at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile, and you being from Mobile, that had to be cool to be able to play there. in the Senior Bowl in Mobile.
Hey, that's great. That was another childhood dream of actually like being a child, watching it, growing up, going to the games, asking the player for gloves and everything, and to finally be playing in it. It was just amazing. Especially, it hit me when one of the little kids asked for my gloves because I remember I was one of those kids, and I was just excited because I'm from Mobile, and the kids from Mobile seeing that they like shows them that you can play in this game. I was just
Yeah.
like you before, so it was just really exciting to take pictures and talk to them.
That's so awesome. Roger McCreary joining us. And were there any players like when you were younger that you kind of watched and wanted to be like?
Just like period or like
Yeah, just
I grew up watching like a lot of players. I'm not gonna lie, like cornerback. I did not imagine playing cornerback, so I wanted to play running back. I wanted to be like Michael Vick. I wanted
Yeah.
to be like Terrell Owens. At this point, it was really like a lot of guys that changed my life at like a lot of different positions. But the person I look to now is Tre'Davious White and Jair Alexander. Them guys, just to how they improved the game as a cornerback. That's who I really want to play like.
Yeah, well, cool stuff. Roger McCreary, he is here representing Bush's Beans. They are now the official Beans of the SEC with their new partnership with the SEC and the SEC Network. Roger, appreciate you coming by and talking with us this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of the time here at SEC Media Days.
All right, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Roger McCreary joining us live here on Radio Row. We will jump to another break, be back with more live coverage next here on Fox Sports 102.9, presented by Twin City Used Cars.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much. Absolutely.
Thanks, Chase.
Absolutely.
Got you a little gift here.
I appreciate
Take it
that.
home.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, man. We'll see you around. We'll be around tomorrow, too.
All
so
right.
throw around into you.
Thank you.
I got a big old can of baked beans, Dale. Yep. I like gifts for doing interviews. Yeah. We are back here at SEC Media Days, Day 3. We are live here on Radio Row. Chase Robinson here with you, as we appreciate you for hanging out with us. We got the YouTube live stream going on right now, so you can watch us on YouTube. You can also, of course, listen to us on Fox Sports 102.9 and on WKXX.com. So a couple of ways to listen to us on this Wednesday afternoon, Day 3 of 4. We had Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, and Kentucky all up today here at SEC Media Days. Our final 3 teams will be up tomorrow, as Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas A&M will take the podium coming up tomorrow. But as we move through the show, we're going to kind of break down the teams we saw today. First up was Arkansas. We've got some more guests, so several more guests, as Buck Bellew will join us here in just a little bit. Tony Barnhart as well, Josh Pate. We got Gary Stokin from the Peach Bowl coming up as well. But I want to kind of talk some Arkansas Razorbacks football with you here for a second, as I think a big question coming into this season, because Arkansas fans are very excited, and we talked a little bit with Brent Beard about this yesterday. Can Arkansas really contend in the SEC West? I think that's a huge question. Last year was a great year, 9-4 for the Razorbacks. It's been a long time. They were 4-4 in the SEC, though, tied for third in the West, and I think that's going to be big for them to show that this was not just a, one-year thing for them to be, a 9-win team. Are they going to be a 10-win team this year? I'm probably not. Possibly, but, I'm thinking more of a maybe an 8-win team for Arkansas this year. But looking at their schedule, very tough schedule. Start off the year with Cincinnati there in week 1. They got Cincinnati, then jump right into SEC play with South Carolina, then Missouri State, and then Texas A&M, and then Alabama. So in their first 5 weeks, they have Cincinnati, who was a playoff team last year, and I don't know if they'll necessarily make the playoffs again this year, but they'll win the AAC. I mean, they're still going to be a good football team. You got Cincinnati. Week 2, you got South Carolina, who got Spencer Rattler and Shane Beamer building that program up there. Then you got Missouri State in week 3, then Texas A&M, and then Alabama. What a tough first 5 games there for Arkansas. And then then you got BYU, and then you got some more SEC games, Liberty mixed in there. So your non-conference schedule, if you're Arkansas, it's Cincinnati, Missouri State, BYU, and Liberty. What a non-conference slate there. That's very, very impressive, schedule they've put together, which, it could, they could win some of those games. I'm not saying they're not, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. You think last year, Treylon Burks, the talent that he was for the Razorbacks last year, who's KJ Jefferson, going to go to? What can he do? I think he is a very, very good quarterback, dual threat guy. He's the first, running starter at Arkansas since Kendall Brower's career as an offensive coordinator. And so if he can stay healthy, I think that's really going to help out the Razorbacks this year, no doubt about it. But, man, Arkansas fans really need to appreciate KJ Jefferson, what he has done, what he can do. I think for him, being a runner, he's got to improve the passing game a little bit. If he has guys that can pass to him, and if that pass game can become dangerous, I think it could be really really interesting. So Last year, Jefferson led the team 664 rushing yards, passed for 2,676 yards, had a 21-4 touchdown to interception ratio. That's pretty good. But he lost Treylon Burks, like we said a minute ago, had 66 catches. That was his top target. So you got Warren Thompson, you got Bryce Stevens, you got Jackson Jr., Jason Hazelwood. These guys are going to have to be able to make the big-time catches, make catches when they need them to. I think that's going to be really important this year coming up for the Arkansas Razorbacks. But should be a good season for Arkansas. Not sure they'll be, contending for the West, but certainly excited to see what that holds. Let's take another break here. Buck Bellew of former Georgia quarterback, now with 680 The Fan over in Atlanta. He is going to join us next as we continue breaking down the Georgia Bulldogs and Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky. We do that next. Buck Bellew will join us here on our live SEC Media Day coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars on Fox Sports 102.9. All righty. Yes. Buck Ballou, former Georgia Bulldog, stop by and chat with us as well as we sit here on the second level of the College Football Hall of Fame here in Atlanta, set up right above the little turf field they have here at the Hall of Fame, where normally would take place of some activities and everything when you come experience the Hall of Fame. This week, though, it is the main media room, as all the coaches and players are making their way through it, representing their schools. Today up, Georgia, Arkansas, Florida, and the Kentucky Wildcats here at the College Football Hall of Fame. So great to be here, to be bringing you coverage. We have more great guests to get to coming up at the top of the hour. Looking forward to chatting with Gary Stokan. He is the CEO and president of the Peach Bowl. So really excited to talk with him coming up later. Shortly here, at the top of the hour, we'll have a chance to talk with Gary. So looking forward to that. Also, Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart, will join us. He was kind enough to stop by to talk some SEC football with us, as well as the Bobby Dodd Trophy. He's on the board of directors for the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year Trophy, so we talked a little bit about that as well. And Josh Pate from 24/7 Sports and Late Kick Live show, he joined us as well. So great content, great interviews to come as we are here at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. And again, we had Arkansas start the day off. We kind of broke down Arkansas' schedule a minute ago. The reigning national champs, the Georgia Bulldogs, here as well, as we're going to look at them here in just a second. Also, this afternoon's session held one of the newcomers in the SEC, Billy Napier, as he spoke about the Florida Gators as well as the Kentucky Wildcats. And Mark Stoops here as well, as a lot of folks talking about Kentucky this year as well. So we'll get to kind of break down all those teams, but I want to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs and what this 2022 season could be. And of course, they finished 14-1 last year. The one loss was Alabama in the SEC championship. Georgia goes on to win the national championship, finished 8-0, first in the East. And this year's team, offensively, a lot of weapons coming back. Defensively, could look a little different. And, you know, you look at their schedule. They open up the year with Oregon right here in Atlanta. We'll talk with Gary Stokan about that shortly, of their opening game there with the Oregon Ducks. That's going to be, you know, kind of a tough one to start off, because here's a cool storyline. Dan Lanning, defensive coordinator from Georgia last year, now the head coach of the Oregon Ducks. Of course, Bo Nix is up as the head coach of Oregon now. So that's kind of a cool story going into this. And then week 2, Georgia's got the Samford Bulldogs. They'll make their way over to Athens. Week 3, Georgia goes to South Carolina. South Carolina much improved. Good quarterback and Spencer Rattler expected this season. So should be, you know, a pretty good game there in week 3. Week 4, Georgia hosts Kent State. And then you get into the big SEC games. You're at Missouri to start the month of October is Georgia. So they're at Missouri. They host Auburn, host Vanderbilt, and then, of course, take on the Florida Gators in Jacksonville. Then you host Tennessee, go to Mississippi State, go to Kentucky, and finish up the year at Georgia Tech. I think this is a very winnable schedule for Georgia. I mean, obviously, there's some tough teams on there. It's hard to tell what Kentucky's going to be like this year. It's hard to tell what Tennessee's going to be like this year. I think those are winnable games for Georgia. Are they going to go undefeated again? That's super hard to tell. In fact, it's super hard to predict that for any team, really. But can Georgia once again win out in the East? Yeah, they definitely could. I think, again, the only question marks is Tennessee and Kentucky, because honestly we have no idea what those teams look like. Could they slip up and lose another game? Yeah, absolutely. Not saying they can't or not going to. Yeah, they definitely could. Any team could. There's no doubt. But I think the two to circle of these could be pretty good games is the Tennessee game and the Kentucky game. I think those are going to be really good and have the potential to maybe be upsets. But other than that, Georgia's going to be favored big time in most of their games this year. There's no getting around that. That's they've built that reputation until they lose that, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. I see them being favored big in all of their games, and I think the Oregon game's very winnable for Georgia. And we saw a really good game, Georgia and Clemson last year. And I think that really set the tone good for Georgia. It was a close game, and Clemson, I know, didn't end up being the Clemson that we're used to seeing. But, I think this Georgia team's very capable. I think Stetson Bennett is, he's looking to progress even more. Last year, completed 185 of 287 passes at 64.5% for 2,862 yards and 29 touchdowns with just 7 interceptions. And, of course, he didn't play all season. JT Daniels went through some injuries. He stepped in for him there. So I think Stetson Bennett is in a good place to lead this team to more success this year. They lost a couple of running backs. They lost a lot on defense. They lost Jermaine Burton, who's now an Alabama Crimson Tide wide receiver. But Kirby Smart and Todd Monken, offensive coordinator there at Georgia, love to utilize the tight ends. And I think they're going to do that again. Eric Gilbert, tight end, sat out last year due to some personal reasons after transferring from LSU. But during the spring game, Gilbert looked really impressive. Caught a couple touchdown passes along with Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington. Gilbert makes this tight end room at Georgia probably the best in the nation. And Monken, Smart, love to utilize the tight ends. And so it's going to be really good for them to be able to utilize Eric Gilbert and make some stuff happen there with the tight ends. Brock Bowers was really dangerous last year, as we saw in the national championship and the SEC championship. So I think Georgia, they're going to be good. I think they, Georgia and Alabama, once again, the best two teams in the SEC. We'll see if there's any other surprises, any teams that can take down the Georgia Bulldogs this year. But, I expect them to win the East. I think we'll have another Alabama-Georgia, like Buck Bellew was saying last segment. I think we'll have another Alabama-Georgia SEC championship game coming up in December. So that's a little scouting report there on the Georgia Bulldogs, as we heard from Kirby Smart earlier. We will break down Florida and Kentucky coming up in hour 2. Coming up on the other side of the break, though, we will have Gary Stokan. He is the CEO and president of the Peach Bowl here in Atlanta. So we'll talk with Gary Stokan next. We'll also talk with Mr. College Football Tony Barnhart coming up in hour 2. Josh Pate with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports HQ, also with Late Kick Live. He will join us coming up in hour number 2. So we've got a busy hour on the way. And so stick around again as we are live here from Radio Row at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. We're located here on the second story. And more to come live from SEC Media Days. Continues in a moment here on Fox Sports 102.9. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 here on this Wednesday afternoon, day 3 of SEC Media Day coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars. And we welcome on here at our table on Radio Row, Gary Stokan. He is the president and CEO of the Peach Bowl. Welcome on. Thanks for coming on with us.
Well, we appreciate you having us, and welcome to Atlanta and College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, great stuff here. And it's going to be right around the corner when the Chick-fil-A kickoff game happens September 3rd, featuring an SEC team, the Georgia Bulldogs and the Oregon Ducks. And I know that's what a great matchup to start the season off, and right here in Atlanta.
Well, we're blessed. We have 3 games this year. We'll host the 2 Chick-fil-A kickoff games on Saturday and Monday to start the season. 3 of the 4 teams will be all ranked in the top 10, with Georgia number 3, Oregon number 10, and Clemson number 5. And then at the end of the season, we'll host the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which will have number 1 against number 4, or number 2 against number 3 in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl CFP semifinal. So it's going to be a record season for us. We announced this morning that Georgia-Oregon sold out. We announced last week that the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl sold out, and we hope to sell out the Clemson-Georgia Tech game by this weekend.
Yeah, so, man, such exciting stuff as we get close to football season. So kind of take us through. I know scheduling is made out far in advance now. Take us through kind of how you guys go through of picking what teams, what games, what matchups you want to see in these kind of kickoff games.
Yeah, it's really an interesting process. You talk to a lot of ADs, you talk to a lot of coaches. I look at the schedules of where there's openings. I look at the recruiting patterns, who's having success in recruiting, the coaches' contracts. You look at all those things, and basically you just sit with a lot of people and say, hey, would you be willing to play this year? Who would you be willing to play or not play? Then you got to get to the business of how many tickets do you need? What kind of payout are we talking about? So it's an involved process that we've been very successful at through starting this in 2008. We're scheduled out through 2025, but I can tell you it's going to be more difficult going forward because of not only expansion of the playoff, but potentially expansion of conferences. So we'll have to wait and see what happens after 2025, but up until then, we've got some great games scheduled.
Absolutely, and with the Peach Bowl, you mentioned that's the semifinal game this year, and a few years ago was the national championship game. What made the Peach Bowl, have the opportunity to be a semifinal, to be a national championship destination?
Well, I think it's been great work by our board, our staff, which is the best in the business, a lot of our volunteers, great partners like Chick-fil-A, having a great city like Atlanta where you got 12,000 hotel rooms downtown, a lot of them in walking distance to the facilities. Mercedes-Benz Stadium being a wonderful facility, Chick-fil-A being great partners, the longest title sponsor in the bowl business now. Chick-fil-A started with us in 1997 through 2022. So for all those reasons, relationships with the SEC and the ACC, those have all helped us get to the point where we are now, one of the New Year's 6 bowl games.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're talking with Gary Stokan. He is the CEO and president of the Peach Bowl, and you've been doing this for a while here with the Peach Bowl. How have you seen it grow and expand to what it is now, hosting the kickoff games and having the Peach Bowl?
Yeah, it's interesting. In 1998, our first year, my first year, we selected Georgia and Virginia, who were, SEC, ACC was our contracts. And the AJC, our newspaper here, said Georgia going to third-tier bowl game. And so we've come from a third-tier bowl game to now being part of the national semifinals with the CFP. So it's been a great run. We've put a lot of hard work in, and it's been a lot of people that have successfully all pitched together to make this a successful franchise now, where we are part of the semifinal. We've got the kickoff games to start the season, and hopefully, into the future, we're part of whatever the expansion is of the CFP.
Yeah, and with the expansion, with the not really knowing what's going to happen with conference expanding, with the playoff possibly expanding, how does that affect you and thinking ahead and trying to make things happen and improve the Peach Bowl?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's difficult to look ahead and say, okay, what teams are going to be available for kickoff games, because you have to look, what is CFP expansion going to look like? What is conference expansion going to look like? How many conference games are they going to commit to play? Because take right now, the ACC and SEC conferences work for us because they only play 8 conference games. And as an AD, you have to schedule 7 home games to make your budget. Well, if you got 4 conference and you schedule 3 non-conference, that gives you your 7. You still have 1 game left. If they go to 10 conference games, all of a sudden they go 5 home, 5 away. Those other 2 games you got to schedule at home, so there's no inventory. So inventory is shrinking. It's going to be more difficult into the future. A lot of ADs, because of CFP expansion, have been doing big home and home non-conference games because, A, they want to get their budgets. They want that season ticket holder to make sure they keep buying the season tickets. And B, they think with an expanded playoff, you can have more than 1 loss and still get into the playoff. So we'll have to remains to be seen what direction they decide to go with conference expansion, CFP expansion, and the schedule of the games.
Absolutely, and you mentioned you guys have this scheduled out until 2025, and of course you got Clemson, Georgia Tech, like you mentioned this year, a couple ACC teams, Georgia Tech in 23 as well, then Clemson and Georgia in 24. Does it help having like a Georgia Tech come in and play a team right here in Atlanta?
We obviously want to help Georgia and Georgia Tech as much as we can because they're within our state. And so that's why you see Georgia Tech this year, Georgia this year, Georgia in 24, and Georgia Tech in 23. That could be in the future, maybe some of the ways that we can schedule these games, getting a local participation. But, yeah, we love working with Georgia Tech and Georgia, and putting the kickoff games and then host them in the bowl games should they make it that far.
Absolutely. We're talking with Gary Stokan, President and CEO of the Peach Bowl. Very excited. So kind of how do you guys now prepare? I mean, we're right around the corner from the season kickoff, but I'm sure you guys are already preparing for the Peach Bowl coming up in January.
Yeah, we have weekly calls in the case of the kickoff games, with Georgia, Oregon, Georgia Tech, and Clemson, just preparing. And then with the CFP, we meet occasionally with them. And as we get closer, once the season starts, by November, 1st of November, we'll take all the teams that potentially have an opportunity to play in our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. We'll send them our institutional guide so they'll know, here's the dates you got to be here, here's the events that we have, and then we'll make contact with them probably sometime mid-November. And then by December 5th, we'll know the 2 teams, and then we'll meet with them throughout December, have them come in here and tour the hotels and the facility. It takes a lot of coordination up front to make these things happen. People think I work 1 day a year, December 31st, and just make something happen. But my staff does a first-class job. They're the best in the business, and they really do a good job of meeting with people. And then you got the partners of the hotels, the stadiums to work with us as well. So it really takes a village to make these things work.
Absolutely. We're excited for the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, Oregon and Georgia. What a great matchup to kind of get college football going. And, of course, looking forward to seeing whoever's playing here in December at the Peach Bowl here in Atlanta. Gary Stokan, thanks so much for coming by and talking with us this afternoon.
Thanks so much for having us. And we look forward to hosting at the either Chick-fil-A kickoff game or Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl at the end of the year.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
More SEC Media Day coverage. Stay tuned. It's presented by Twin City Used Cars here on Fox Sports 102.9.
Good job. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir.
Chase, thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a Chick-fil-A on us.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
We'll be back later.
Oh, good.
from SEC Media Days, Day 3, as we are close to wrapping up our coverage here today. One more day after today. We'll have Day 4 coming up tomorrow. It'll be a big day because the Auburn Tigers are here. Brian Harsin will get things started early tomorrow morning. We'll get Day 4 started. We'll hear from Auburn as well as Tennessee and Texas A&M tomorrow. So that should be interesting to have those teams here. Get a chance to hear Brian Harsin. A lot of hype around Tennessee, so we'll listen in to the Tennessee Vols tomorrow. And then, of course, everybody wants to hear from Jimbo Fisher. So we'll have that tomorrow as well. We'll have, of course, live coverage on here tomorrow. So hope you tune in for Day 4 of our SEC Media Day coverage presented by Twin City Used Cars coming up tomorrow. And, of course, we'll have lots of great guests as we have. We had a great guest lineup today. We'll get those up on the podcast channel for you. Wherever you listen to podcasts, just search for WKXX Live. As we had Roger McCreary, we had Buck Ballou, Tony Barnhart, Josh Pate, Gary Stokin, all with us. So, man, they couldn't ask for a better guest lineup than what we had today. Want to break down a couple more teams that were here today. The Kentucky Wildcats, the Florida Gators, both were on tap today here on Day 3. I want to start with Kentucky because that's a team a lot of folks are on this year. And it all starts with Will Levis. Will Levis, he was the first Kentucky quarterback to throw for 2,000 yards since Steven Johnson back in 2017, and had the highest passing yardage for Kentucky Wildcats since 2010. So a lot of people are saying, hey, Will Levis could be a guy that could get them back to being a 10-win team, that he's a guy that maybe could be a top 10 draft pick next year possibly. So interesting of what could be kind of the ceiling for Kentucky this year. Looking at their schedule, they start off the year playing Miami of Ohio at home on September 3rd. Game 2, they go to Florida. So, I mean, that's a tough game right off the bat in Week 2 for the Kentucky Wildcats. They come home, they host Youngstown State, they host Northern Illinois. Then they go to Ole Miss to start the SEC portion of the schedule. So at Ole Miss, host South Carolina, host Mississippi State. They're at Tennessee, they're at Missouri, host Vandy, host Georgia, host Louisville. Looking at that schedule, I think it's a pretty favorable schedule for the Wildcats. Yes, there's some tough teams in there. Obviously, they play an SEC schedule. They play Tennessee, who could be really good this year. They play Georgia, who we know is going to be good this year. They play Ole Miss, who will be talented. Mississippi State will be much better. South Carolina is going to be better. But I see this as a very favorable schedule. Last year they finished 5-3 in the SEC. That was second in the SEC East. Their losses came to Georgia, Mississippi State, and Tennessee. Those were their 3 losses last year. But got really good wins over, Florida, over LSU, Vandy, Louisville. They beat Iowa in the Citrus Bowl. But I think a big kind of what maybe the play this year for Kentucky hangs on is what's the offensive line going to look like? The offensive line tends to be pretty big up at Kentucky. Eric Walford, who has been the offensive line coach for Kentucky in recent years, he is now the offensive line coach at Alabama. He's kind of moved on. He's got some talented guys to work with. Does Mark Stoops, but still, I think offensive line is going to be important. They're going to be matched up with some really good defensive fronts, so that's going to be important there for Kentucky. When you look at the East is hard. The SEC East of who's going to come out behind Georgia, and possibly even ahead. Some people are saying, "Hey, Kentucky may be the team out of the East." I don't know about that. I'm going to put Georgia first in the East, but certainly you have to think Kentucky may be that number 2 team in the SEC East. Now, I think Tennessee might be right there with them, but I think Kentucky's going to be good this year. I really do. Will Levis is a great quarterback. They've got a couple of good receivers, Dane Key, Tavion Robinson. They got a good running back, Chris Rodriguez Jr., that I think is going to be good as well. So I like the way this Kentucky team looks, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring to the table this year. And the Florida Gators also on tap here today. And we've talked about the Gators before. They have got a brutal schedule, one of the toughest schedules, I think, in the country, honestly. You start off with Utah, week 1. Utah, a lot of people out west are predicting Utah to be the Pac-12 champs, possibly. So you got Utah week 1, Kentucky week 2, South Florida week 3, and then at Tennessee week 4. Then Eastern Washington. You got Missouri, LSU, Georgia, A&M, South Carolina, Vandy, and Florida State. So Florida's got a pretty brutal schedule. But I like some of the talent they have. Think about Anthony Richardson. He's done great this year. So we'll see what Billy Napier can do in year 1. I think he's got the culture heading in the right direction. A lot of Florida fans have been upset about recruiting. I think he's going to be a really good coach. I think he's going to do a great job, and he's been able to recruit around Gainesville. I think that's what Florida wanted, and he's able to do that, is recruit around Gainesville and the university there. So I'm excited to see what's to come there for the Florida Gators. Let's take a break here. We'll come back, and we will wrap up this Wednesday edition of the show next here on WKXX Live. channel there. Just search for WKXX Live there on YouTube, and we'll have our live stream going. I know it's the internet's been struggling today, so I know our YouTube stream has dropped out some. But hopefully that will be back at full force coming up tomorrow. That's going to do it for us this afternoon, though, here from the College Football Hall of Fame. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday. It's been a long week. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. We will talk to you tomorrow. Day 4, final day of SEC Media Days is tomorrow right here on Fox Sports 102.9, presented by Twin City Used Cars. See you tomorrow.